First of all, welcome to everyone, and thank you for inviting me here. That it is true, I did start off in the first Jerry Brown administration 40 years ago, so it's really something when, I'm getting to be the oldest person in the room, and I'm started work before maybe half of you were even born. Hopefully your parents were at least alive then. But it is thrilling for me to see in so many places that I go and speak at, the young blood and level of interest that's coming into this area, not just energy efficiency, but clean energy overall, and climate change. Having been in this area for decades, I can honestly say it's never been so exciting. And so many challenges, but so many opportunities. So my goal is to give you a little bit of information, but mainly to have you feel inspired when you leave, that it really is going to depend upon not somebody, somewhere that's solving these problems, but each of us really figuring out what we can do to move things forward. And I'll just say, when I had the honor of being a commissioner at the California Public Utilities Commission, I had done an overseas trip to Europe to learn about energy efficiency. And that was then I heard about the UK had just adopted its zero net energy goals. And I came back and I said, why don't we have zero net energy goals in California? And then I started to think, why don't we have a strategic plan? So instead of sort of just year by year, let's think about where we're going. And it's been one of the great just thrills of my life that I ended my term as a commissioner at the California PUC in 2010. And here we are 7 years later, and people are still talking about the strategic plan. But I was really hoping it would be a roadmap, an action plan for where we could be going. And we are doubling down on what we can do with zero net energy. So there's lots of stuff we've done, but lots of stuff to do. So let me just start to run through that. Save the money, save the world, the next level of energy efficiency is just the title. But I've got three areas. The first is why am I optimistic that in these very trying times, it's easy to feel overwhelmed or feel like, we've got so many hurdles ahead. But I want to inspire all of us to think about, we've done some really great things. The second part that I want to talk about, and you're all a very knowledgeable crowd, so you probably have seen a lot of this, but to just bring home the linkage of our climate goals with our energy challenges ahead. And then the third is an area that I've been working on since I got to Stanford, is really trying to think about the next level of energy efficiency and what do we need to be doing. My particular area of focus is looking at the intersection between technology, policy, and investment, because I think just as we have so many silos in what we do, we siloed between those three areas of technology and policy and investment too much. And to move ahead, we really need to understand how we can have better integration across them. So on the why am I optimistic, I basically have 4 slides. Does anyone know what this slide is called? There we go, the Rosenfeld slide. Art Rosenfeld was basically the founder of energy efficiency. He unfortunately died earlier this year at the age of 92, but he was the person that came up with the concept of we could actually reduce what buildings use on electricity, and that could then have implications for building power plants, etc. There's a wonderful online article that he wrote called The Art of Energy Efficiency. And I highly recommend it, especially to folks who are somewhat new in the field. It talks about how we all got started on energy efficiency and what he did. And so we have named this after him. And what this shows is that the very bottom line is California's energy usage. Because we've had some structural changes in our economy, we've lost some manufacturing, you actually look at the green line. And then the top is the energy usage over the United States. And this is across, I don't have my glasses on, but it should be across about 50 years. We started doing energy efficiency in California in the late 1970s. And I had the honor of being at the Energy Commission then when we wrote the first appliance standards, the first building standards. And what happened was that we then really succeeded in figuring out how to do energy efficiency so that our per capita consumption, that's what that's showing, could remain flat, while at the same time we were growing our population and we were really keeping our economy very vibrant. And frankly, we all know we're using a lot more stuff, our computers, new technology that hadn't even been invented. So it's sort of the success story that's told about California's role in energy efficiency. The very sad part of this picture is the top, which is because we didn't have every other state, much less the federal government, really doubling down on energy efficiency consistently. We had tremendous growth in the rest of the United States. And behind those numbers of that growth are greenhouse gas emissions, because many of these other states have coal plants that are really providing their electricity. So it's really a sad story to tell, because this didn't need to happen. And that's why I want all of us to really try to go out of here saying, you know, we don't want to look at this going forward and say this sort of stuff goes on. Because again, if we could do it, other places could do it. We have great people here, we have lots of resources, but it is something that is possible to do every other state in the United States. So then my other slide is energy use, which shows that we actually, though it could have gone higher, that slide that I showed you, that across the United States that we have started to have some real increases in energy efficiency, and that overall it's been about $2,500 per person for everybody in the United States that we've achieved with energy efficiency. So energy efficiency is really one of the big economic drivers that we've had, not just in California, but in the United States, even though the rest of the United States did not step up to the level that they could have and frankly should have. This may be familiar to you, but if not, it's a great slide that NRDC put together about what have we accomplished, that when you add up all those individual actions on energy efficiency, it's been the equivalent of saving 30 power plants. That's a huge number. Just think if in your communities we had been signing 30 additional power plants. That, you know, obviously brings up all sorts of issues about, you know, how the local communities adjust to that, where it would be located, would they be fossil-fired, etc. So we've been able to avoid doing that. We also have, because we've had a lot of emphasis on low income. When I was a commissioner, I again had the great honor, I asked for it and was given it to be the low-income commissioner. So I oversaw both the low-income energy efficiency program and our low-income rates. And one of the things that we put in place with the strategic plan was a goal that for California by 2020, every single low-income investor-owned utility customer in the state who is eligible to participate in our energy efficiency programs and wants to do so will be provided the opportunity to do so. So basically, you can think at it that our goal is to have all of the low-income residents in California in the investor-owned utility areas be full participants in energy efficiency. And I know our new term is disadvantaged communities, DACs, but I'm still thinking about it in terms of how we wrote the goal. And from what I know, the efforts in this continue to be robust. Once we set the goal, we double the amount of funding that would be available for these programs. But I again encourage all of you in your communities, if you are seeing that the programs in California for low-income residents are not meeting their needs, their interest levels, their ability to participate in energy efficiency, make a fuss. You can figure out how to do it, Kate will help you on it, but we really do need to do our part with the energy efficiency community. The other thing that I'll just add is on the bottom row, you'll see the saving of money, $75 billion, because otherwise we would have been building more expensive power plants, more expensive transmission line distribution services. So energy efficiency has actually been one of the largest economic development programs in California. And if we didn't have it, we would be in a lot worse state than we are now. And then, of course, on meeting the greenhouse gas and our climate goals. This is a slide that was put together by one of the professors at Stanford that I'll be very quick on, but it's very interesting. What he did was he analyzed and break down all sorts of information. It does include the transportation side, so I want to make sure you know that, but the green, basically very big slot is the energy efficiency that we've achieved throughout our economy, including very significantly the transportation side, our increased fuel standards. Down at the bottom, which you probably can't see that well, but the very small slice that goes down underneath the greenish one, that is the carbon intensity of the economy, and then right below, no, I'm sorry, that is the last one, the decarbonization of energy consumption, which is basically decarbonizing our energy consumption, which really is the use of renewables in our electricity sector. It's got some other things, but that's the primary aspect. So I want just to bring home, while we're all talking about renewables, if we think about climate change, the role of energy efficiency has been huge, and we need to make sure we don't lose it. I'm not going to go over this because time's moving, but lots of great leadership at the local government, and we couldn't be doing this without all of you. So, what are the challenges? Climate change. Here's just a couple of quick slides on climate change. This is the big picture, if you haven't seen it. This is what was going to happen with our emission reductions. If you look at the red going straight up, business as usual. In large part because our population's growing, our economy's growing. Down, the blue line going down is basically to get to our goals for where we need to be, not just want to be, need to be by 2050. That's our challenge. That's where our emission reductions need to fall. This is some work that's been done by Lawrence Berkeley National Lab and E3, and it lays out our different strategies. The print's too small for you to see, but the blue line is what they look at for energy efficiency and its role. It also includes, very importantly, transportation, electrification, renewables, greater use of solar PV, etc. All of these are strategies we have to be bringing together. But again, if we don't really make sure we keep our eye on energy efficiency, we're not going to achieve the goals that we need to on climate change. This is a daunting slide. This is from the ARB on how our energy use per capita needs to decline. On the left is where we are now, and basically if you look at, I don't know what color it's showing up, but orange, you can think of, that's where we need to be by 2050. So life is going to change, and life is going to change dramatically. And that's the challenge that we're all facing, is to get down to that per capita use, because we want to be able to still have our population grow, we still want to have immigration. We have to really get down to a level of our own individual per capita use, down to levels, frankly, none of us have ever experienced. This you may have seen is energy efficiency's role in a law that was passed in 2015, SB 350. It sat back and said, hey, yeah, we've been doing a lot on energy efficiency, but what the heck, let's double our goals. Unfortunately, the law did not specify who's going to be really giving at the pot for doubling that goals. It has put the Energy Commission in charge. The Energy Commission has lots of workshops and level going on. It says it can come from all sources, not just utility programs, but PACE financing, private efforts. But this is really the biggest challenge we have, is where are we going to get that doubling? So, last part is, what do we need to do next to get to that doubling or even further? The great news is we have new tools. We have intelligent efficiency. We have data analytics. We've invested in advanced meters. We can take that data and really understand what our buildings are using and how we can pinpoint where to get the types of savings. We have new technologies coming in across a whole range of area, not just lighting, but in heat pumps, etc. Behavior interventions and information. That world of energy efficiency didn't even exist 10 years ago. But how we're going to move and capitalize it beyond the sort of rudimentary levels we've been using so far is one of the things we need to focus on. Expanding our financing mechanisms, and I love this, localized energy efficiency. That in the strategic plan, we had a chapter on local government. We said it's really, really important. And I can say for getting the doubling, all of you in the local government are going to be critical for that next level. So we also have to engage locally and internationally. I put this together a week ago and it's just blossomed how many folks are at the local level, at the state level involved. If you haven't joined one of these efforts, the Under 2 MOU, the client mayors, whatever it is, I really encourage you within your own cities to reach out to it because it provides that type of community we all need to see the bigger picture, to get information on best practices. So what else needs to be done? And this is taking the policy level. I talked a little bit about we have new technology coming in. We've got lots more going on the financing front. But I'm convinced that we have to sort of double down on really being willing to step forward and say we are going to make changes in the policy framework for energy efficiency. We developed this framework over 40 years and it has served us very well. But for the types of challenges we have ahead, I think we have to just say we're going to make some pretty radical changes in the framework. And I don't have it here, but I wanted to just call out quickly. One of them is seeing everything that we're doing through the climate lens. That I think that that's our number one threat that we have, and energy efficiency is right in that center of it. And so we need to focus on how can we enhance, integrate the energy efficiency, the energy role within the greater climate change efforts that we're doing. But I have 3: enhanced agency coordination and integration. Everybody is cooperating more than they've done, they're talking more, but for any of you who are still in the world of, we're trying to submit an application to an individual program to get some money, you oftentimes still find, depending upon the agency, depending upon the program, different rules, different criteria, etc. And the agencies themselves have not really changed to say, we've got to be able to figure out how to make these decisions much faster. It can't take a year, 2 years to get decisions made, especially on funding. And they don't really embrace going out to the community and getting that type of input. So I think, you know, a real honest commitment by agencies, and especially at the state level that controls so much of this money and goals, is fundamentally needed for us to move forward. Updating, I'm no longer in government, so I'm saying. Updating rules and policies, I'm going to very quickly go through that, and tracking. So I think that one of the things we could really use is a statewide leadership collaborative with dedicated staffing that would really look across the different agencies, across the different programs, and enhance things. And have a market transformation collaborative. We need to figure out how to transform our markets, bring in new technologies beyond individual pilot programs. And we're not doing a good enough job on that. So I think that's the sort of statewide collaborative we need. This is one example of, this is potential, which sort of rules the regulatory world. That the top is technical potential for energy efficiency, the bottom is, the green is the economic potential, and way down at the bottom is what is called market potential. I don't call it that anymore. I call it regulatory potential. Because we have built up a scheme that for energy efficiency, most of the stuff can only be approved if it's, quote, cost effective. Even though it's number one in our loading order, we actually have the most stringent, hardest requirements to meet for energy efficiency. So that's what squeezes through under what is currently deemed cost effective under the current rules. There's a new report coming out tomorrow by Navigant on the new potential study. I don't know if they're calling out for the change in rules, but it's not that we don't have technology out there. It's because we've set up over 40 years rules that are not letting us access this technology into the programs in the way that we need to. For the CCAs out there, this is something I really encourage you to think about. This is from the Energy Commission, their 10-year forecast. The very bottom is reduced load that's going to be coming from energy efficiency efforts. Above that is purple, that's from solar PV. So you can see that that's an expanding wedge of reduced loads expected throughout the states. And then, expected throughout California. And then above the very small increase in orange is what we're looking at for increased load from electric vehicles. We all really wish that that increased load from electrification transportation was a whole lot larger, and that's an incredibly important area to focus on to get our transportation system electrified. But the challenge is that as we are embarking upon our goals for energy efficiency and for solar PV, that means less electricity is going to be used and sold. And one of my concerns is that while we put in place decoupling for our utilities in the state decades ago, so that they are indifferent to whether they lose load, because if they sell less kilowatt hours under decoupling, they can raise rates just a smidgen to make up the same revenues that they need. But for our CCAs, they are not in that scheme. They have no decoupling proposals. And so my greatest concern is that they're setting, it's a direct disincentive for CCAs to be encouraging and supporting activities that are decreasing their revenues. The solution, I believe, is that we do a modified form of decoupling for the CCAs, but that means each and every one of them would have to adopt that type of proposal. And to my knowledge, none of them have done it so far. But I think it's a very important area to think about. And then the final one is just on tracking progress. Again, in my work at Stanford, I started to really look at how do we know publicly what's going on in the world of energy efficiency. It's very, very opaque. It's practically impossible to track, and much of the, quote, tracking is just putting out forecasts of what we expected from savings. So I won't go through this, but I think collectively this is a really important area, and I think at the local government level, as you're starting to think about how you can develop web portals or things like that that are going to be open to your residents and your businesses about what your local area is doing for reducing greenhouse gas emissions, I encourage you to think about how can you build in aspects of that that's not just tracking how many solar PVs got installed, but what's really going on with energy efficiency and what are the areas that are succeeding and what are the areas that still need some challenge. So I'm just going to end this with what I started off with. This is my personal mentor, Art Rosenfeld, the father of energy efficiency, who unfortunately passed away a couple of years before he did pass away. He received the highest medal for scientific accomplishment from President Obama. And so I just encourage all of us to follow in Art's footsteps. I mean, he literally dreamed up an entire new area and was relentless on pushing forward, and at the end of the day, you saw the numbers. It avoided 30 large power plants. It brought in billions of dollars to our economy. So, you know, if you can just take a little bit of time today at the conference as you're talking to one another about, you know, what's that action you could take or that idea you could take that steps outside of your sort of level of comfort. And much of it probably would involve having to collaborate or with people not necessarily in your own particular area that you work with. But my mantra that I've tried to use professionally is that innovation, integration, and collaboration. And when I think of the things that I've done that I've felt have been success, I can say for each one of those, I needed to be able to check the box that I was really looking at, not just innovation, but integration and collaboration. So we've done an awful lot, but we've got a lot to do, and I really encourage each of you to reach within yourselves and make a difference. Thank you very much.